Hello everyone. I think this should be okay now. Uh, every time there has to be a problem. I'm hoping that this time it is fine. There is no way I can see whether I am broadcasting, and until I confirm that, I won't be able to start. If you give me one moment and bear with me. Trying to see. Yeah, I think that's me. Cool. We are going to talk about the 5th of July, the 15th of July last year, Turkey coup attempt. I'm Dr. Ismail Sezgin. I'm mainly interested in Hizmet movement and Turkish politics. And I would like to start by remembering the tragic event last year, which cost 250 lives immediately, and afterwards many other thousands of people who have been affected by this. All our thoughts and prayers are with them. And today we're going to try to make sense of what happened last year. I want to start with a reminder. This is how I responded initially when I heard about the coup attempt. And I said, like it's scary to watch this bloody coup attempt in Turkey. Either way, the first victim of this saga will be Gulen, no matter the outcome. The reason for that is, even if it was a genuine coup attempt, probably that means it is Kemalist army taking control. They don't like Gulen, so they'll persecute him. And if it was Erdogan who wins this or organizes this, I didn't thought that he was organizing this then anyway. And then he would blame this to Gulen and make a political benefit out of it. But regardless, I wanted to say that we have to defend democracy despite the fact that Erdogan will make this a reason to silence his political opponents. Yet there is still hope. It is sad to see that I was right. He actually did this. He actually silenced his political opponents. We had to stop the military junta. Erdogan should be posed in ballot box with politics. We know no names behind the plot at that time, 6:25 UK time, but Erdogan has already started blaming his political opponents, and people were dying on the street. And one final one, we don't know who has attempted the coup in Turkey, but we know who will pay the bill and who will harvest the political benefit of it. So these are some tweets that I have shared, and later, I have made a video blog talking about why I think Fethullah Gulen wasn't behind this coup attempt. And I simply gave 5 reasons. One is because that will be a political suicide for him, which means that if he wins the coup attempt, if by just attempting he would finish off his entire life. By attempting, he would, let's say, either win the attempt and lose the attempt. If he wins, he just secures Turkey, and he had to withdraw all of his operations around the world, close down the schools and stuff. If he, of course, loses, then as a religious movement who orchestrated a coup attempt, that will be a suicide for them. And they didn't have political support. That was one of my reasons. They didn't have military support. They didn't have public support. They didn't have theoretical background. They didn't have philosophical capability to do that after having so much invested on education, dialogue, and charity activities. So that's what I said. But Turkey is no stranger for the coup attempts. This is the plan of one of the coup attempts that was foiled in 2003. It was about sledgehammer, and this is a confirmed document by the generals who planned this. So there is 5 stages and how they will organize a coup in there. So if I were to if I were to, bring about some other reasons why we should be a bit suspicious about what's going on in Turkey, about why things are, sorry about this, we should be a bit suspicious because according to some news agencies and Alexander Dugin, Putin's ambassador or some sort of an advisor, he actually said he warned Turkish authorities about a coup attempt. And March 24th, of course, again, Michael Rubin has written on Newsweek about a possible coup attempt in Turkey. And pro-government journalists have talked about this, that there might be a coup attempt in Turkey. And on the day of the coup, a military personnel from the Turkish army who was supposed to go to the intelligence service and pick the chief of intelligence on that day, he actually gave in information about the coup attempt. Then he was sacked from the army and recruited by the intelligence agency. But apart from that, of course, we know, like there is a controversy about when and how Erdogan learned about the coup attempt. There are a couple of statements he have given. Sorry about this is in Turkish because all my English version have lost while I was waiting for this. The program crashed. So in midnight 16th of July, like after the 15th of July, while he was heading towards Atatürk Airport, or this is 3:30 by mistake, like he said, this afternoon there was a military move, but when he talked to Al Jazeera in 20th of July, he said, he changed it from afternoon to 9:30 in the evening from his brother-in-law. Then in 2 days later, in 18th of July, he said it was 8 o'clock he learned. And when he talked to Reuters 2 days later, 22nd of July, then he said 4 to 4:30 he learned. And his son-in-law, also the Minister of Energy, Berat Albayrak, he said they learned about 9 o'clock. So this is important because if I ask any UK person, what were you doing when Princess Diana when Princess Diana had a car accident, anyone would know in that moment what they were doing. So this is a president who had a coup attempt, but he can't give a consistent answer when he learned about it and what he did afterwards. Like the answers changed so much. I watched a video where he actually, when he was asked by a journalist, he picked a card and read from there. I heard about it 9:30 and stuff. Anyway, this is suspicious. I'm not saying anything, and this is not usual. But he could have done some stuff if, like assuming that he learned the coup attempt earlier than or earlier than it foiled, because it foiled at 10:30. So he could have actually mobilized 273,000 people, the Turkish police, which would secure probably the most important places. He could have warned the armed forces, which actually was warned about the coup attempt even before 6 o'clock by the intelligence officers, but they didn't take enough precautions. And he could have also secured the media buildings, and he could have talked to public about that coup attempt and make sure, by foiling the attempt before even started, it would have given the army and intelligence service and police service and public a head start. And of course, without waiting 6.5 hours, he could have talked about this to the media, but he didn't. And on the other hand, like the head of military, Turkish military, Hulusi Akar, he is in a bit difficult situation. Although a year passed, we don't know why he didn't take the necessary measures to just stop this before even started. We know more about Grenfell Tower fire which occurred a month ago, but we know much less, and more mystery is emerged about the coup attempt in Turkey. So, for instance, one of the retired generals said that it would have been just a conference call to all army personnel and generals, and staff general could have warned them about nobody will leave their barracks and this and that. But it didn't happen. In fact, this is on the picture you see the guy with the black suit is the chief intelligence, and he's leaving the staff general's office. And we learned about this at March. They kept it secret as one of his contact and meeting was with the staff general, and they talked about the possibility of coup attempt and like the intel he received and this and that. After he left, 1 minute after the coup started by taking over the Turkish headquarters, apparently a very easy place to take over. So this is Hulusi Akar around his either security detail, or, as the story tells us, he is detained by his men and taken to Akıncı base. But it is hard to say whether he's actually detained or he's just escorted with his security detail. But unfortunately, we haven't seen the videos of this, so it's just pictures, and pictures just tells one frame, and one frame doesn't tell you whether he's actually forced or he's just walking with his soldiers, and that's important. Anyway, the coup started, and people were, the coup plotters were talking on WhatsApp, organizing themselves, and we were watching this online. Nothing really happened. And one of the important thing is that, I think which has significant importance, is that when the coup started, an officer was supposed to read a statement about the coup instead of a civilian, which was supposed to give the coup a bit like a military-backed official takeover. But there is a strange thing happened, which I want you to watch, but it will be in Turkish with subtitles, so I will try to say what is happening. So this guy is going through, he goes and changes clothes into, uniform, then receives a phone call, and then changes back to, this is where he's going, actually wearing his uniform to talk. And then he receives a phone call, and he wears back to his normal camouflage and leaves the place, and the talk was done by the civilian speaker, as we all watched later. So that's interesting, because it would have looked like a bit more military, and I would assume any coup plotter would want that image that they are backed by the military, but somehow they decided not to use that psychological thing in their advantage. So, as I said, Hakan Fidan, the chief of intelligence, who received the coup intel at 2:40 on that day, didn't actually contact it to Prime Minister, didn't contact it to President, and later contacted to Staff General, didn't do relevant stuff. In any democratic country, he would have been sacked, and his schedule would have been looked carefully, what he has done and how he let this 250 people die on that day. In here, actually, the Prime Minister is explaining to an interviewer that he asked this to the Chief of Intel, say, why didn't you let me know? And he says that, well, he didn't have a convincing answer. And there you go, that's it. Just because he didn't have a convincing answer, we let it go. So, this is the list of the ministers. None of them were targeted throughout the coup attempt. It's only Erdogan, and that's a case I will slightly look a bit more careful by the end of this video. So this is where the most of the coup stuff happened. The Bosphorus Bridge. On the right-hand side of the bridge, according to the screen, all the buildings that you can see are actually military buildings, and some of them in that green area in the park, they are, places to protect the bridge from air and land attacks. None of these soldiers intervened 12 hours until the next morning to stop the rogue military personnel in there, although their commander has already said that they don't support the coup attempt. And one of the interesting stuff is that one of the main generals who was leading the first army command was quite near to that area, literally, like an hour walk if he wanted to with his army to stop this nonsense there and then. But he didn't do that either. He instead connected to TV channels and said that they are not supporting this coup attempt, but he didn't actually actively go and order them to stop, which would probably work, because most of those soldiers used to think that they are on a military exercise, or they were called for a terror alert. Anyway, the key people didn't talk to the parliamentary committee. These are all things that made the coup a bit questionable, more mysterious. So, for instance, the chief of intel didn't talk to the parliamentary committee, but they said they would question the chief of staff, General Hulusi Akar, which actually he sent a written response. He didn't talk to the committee. He sent a written response to their questions after they have completed their report and made it public. So, and they said the response didn't arrive to the parliament due to the courier wasn't made in time. And I want you to see what they're talking about, as when they said the guy couldn't make it in time. This is the distance between the headquarters of the Turkish army and the parliament, where he was supposed to send this the response. That's 8 minutes or less by walking, but somehow his answers wasn't reached in there. So there are some other stuff happened. For instance, somehow the civilian response was so organized, unlike the military operation was so poor. Like this sort of trucks loaded with stuff was in the way of the barracks to blockade the stuff, and all the mosques were prepared. They were ready to read azan all the day. And I have found this document which actually talks about a coup attempt on 16th of July, 3 a.m., which that is one issue never explored. And in here, there is this Ahmet Shik's piece about why the most important step of the coup, which is to capture or assassinate Erdogan, was delayed until 3:30. And it happened while Erdogan has actually left Marmaris and went to safety to Istanbul, while he was doing a press conference in Istanbul at 3:20. Approximately 15 minutes later, while Erdogan is talking in Istanbul, in Marmaris, the team was attacked the hotel. So the strange thing is they actually were ready at 1 a.m., but actually they didn't attack until 3:45, and that is one of the reasons why people are a bit skeptical about the coup attempt. But what happened is, after the coup, of course, thousands of people are sacked from different parts of the bureaucracy and branch of the places. And for instance, one of the important one here is the general numbers: 138,000 people are sacked, 118,000 of them detained, 55,000 of them have been arrested. Schools are closed down. 2,000 secular schools, dormitories, universities closed down. 8,200 academics lost their jobs. 4,400 judges and prosecutors dismissed, and their belongings are confiscated. So the rest of them were afraid to do anything other than political pressure or following the political pressure. 149 media outlets shut down. 269 journalists was arrested. to date. So that brings us to the last, my tweet on the next day. I want to know who did this with a transparent investigation. I'm fed up with Erdogan blaming the Hizmet movement for everything. I want to really know who did it. But of course, we're not really there. We don't know who did it. But what we know is that this coup attempt requires a closer attention. For that reason, I'll be doing this sort of videos and looking closely and following a report by Stockholm Center for Freedom. They have made a nice report, a very detailed report, 180 pages. Following this, I'll be looking closely about the sections in there and will bring the testimonies and everything. And hope you enjoy it and hope you will follow this. Please stay tuned in my YouTube channel or Twitter account to see the live broadcasting. Thank you very much for joining. Good night. I want to just close up with the people who lost their lives on that day and hope that this will not be repeated again in Turkish history again. Thank you very much.